So there's a number in VeChain supply data that almost nobody has actually looked at. Max supply, 86.7 billion tokens, but only 85.9 billion exist. 727 million VET just vanished. And every explainer calls that a burn. VeChain's own supply page calls it a burn. So I went and read the software that runs this blockchain, and there's a file in it called blocklist.go. 469 addresses, hard-coded right into the client. So I queried those wallets, and the coins are still there. Every single one. They were never burned, they were jailed. And the story of why is really the story of what VeChain is. A company that built a blockchain centralized enough to reverse a theft, and then gave that power away on purpose. To understand VeChain, you start with a man who spent his career watching fakes ruin real things. Sonny Liu was the chief information officer of Louis Vuitton in China. And think about what that job actually is, right? You're the technology guy for one of the most counterfeited luxury brands on earth, in the biggest market for counterfeits on earth. And the problem you cannot solve, no matter how good your systems are, is this. The moment a handbag leaves your warehouse, you lose it. You have no idea whether the thing sitting in a shop in Shenzhen is yours or a very good copy. And that's not a small problem. The OECD puts global trade in fake goods at $467 billion. That's their 2021 data. Roughly 2% of everything the world imports. So Liu leaves the luxury world, and in 2015, VeChain is born. And here's the first thing people get wrong. It doesn't start as an independent crypto company at all. It starts inside a Shanghai firm called BitSE, where Liu wasn't even the chief executive. He was the chief operating officer. That same little incubator also spat out Qtum. VeChain gets spun out into its own foundation with Liu running it, and he is still the chief executive today, a decade later. But here's my favorite fact in the whole story, because almost nobody tells it right. Everyone says VeChain started with wine. It didn't. October 2016, Shanghai Fashion Week. A label called Baby Ghost sends 20 models down a runway carrying 80 handbags, and every single bag has an NFC chip in it, with a unique VeChain ID. You tap your phone on the bag, and the bag tells you its story. That was 9 months before there was ever a token to sell. The product came first, the token came second. And in this industry, that ordering is almost unheard of. Wine came later, chips on bottles, then food. By 2019, Walmart's China arm was running food traceability on VeChain, so a shopper could scan a code and see where their pork actually came from. Handbags, then bottles, then dinner. Same question every time. Okay, so how does the thing actually work? Because the design is clever, and it's the reason enterprises ever showed up at all. VeChain runs 2 tokens, not one. There's VET and there's VTHO. And the way I'd put it is, VET is a solar panel, and VTHO is the electricity it makes. You own the panel, you spend the electricity, you never spend the panel itself. Now, why on earth build it that way? VeChain answers that in their own documentation, and the line is beautifully blunt. The basic principle, they write, is to prevent transaction fees from being directly exposed to the volatility and price of VeChain tokens. And look, that sounds dry, but it is the entire commercial thesis of this company, because on Ethereum, the gas you burn is priced in the very same asset everybody is speculating on. So if the token triples, your company's fuel bill triples for doing exactly the same work. You cannot put that in a budget. Nobody can. But split it in 2, and suddenly the price of the asset and the cost of using the network are 2 completely different markets. Your fuel bill stops caring what traders are doing. And that is the only reason a chief financial officer ever signs. Now, the second design choice is where it gets spicy. Most blockchains pick who writes the next block by burning electricity or through a giant capital-weighted lottery. VeChain did neither. VeChain had 101 seats. That was it. And to get one, You passed a full identity check with the VeChain Foundation. Their own docs say those operators had their identity and their reputation at stake. A small jury of known corporations. 10-second blocks, cheap, predictable, no mining. And yes, deliberately, unapologetically centralized. Critics have hammered them for that for 8 straight years. Hold on to that, because in about a minute, it is going to save them. December 13th, 2019. Somebody drains the VeChain Foundation's buyback wallet. 1.1 billion VET, about $6.5 million, gone. And I want to be careful here, because this gets misreported constantly. The blockchain was not hacked. VeChain's own disclosure says the security of the VeChainThor blockchain and the wallet applications were intact and unaffected. This was not a protocol failure. In their words, it was misconduct of one of the team members within their own finance team. It was an inside job. So what do? On most blockchains, the answer is nothing. You write a very sad blog post, you say code is law, and you watch the money walk out the door forever. That's supposedly the whole point. VeChain did not do that. 5 days later, they shipped a software update, and the release notes say, in the driest possible language, amendments to the transaction pool to add a block list. And all 101 of those identified corporate nodes adopted it within 72 hours. Every wallet the thief controlled, 469 addresses, frozen out. The network simply stopped accepting transactions from them. And then VeChain put the question to a vote, the first all-stakeholder vote in its history. 99% of the votes cast said, keep them frozen, permanently. Now here's where it gets genuinely fascinating, and this is the part I haven't seen anyone cover. Those 469 addresses are still hard-coded, by address, in VeChain's node software today. The file is called blocklist.go. You can go read it right now. And when you query the chain for what's inside those wallets, the money is still sitting there. 727 million VET, parked in accounts the protocol refuses to talk to. It was never destroyed. And even VeChain hedges it. Their own disclosure says those addresses became burn addresses, quote, de facto, making the tokens burnt tokens. De facto, meaning not actually. So sit with that for a second. The thing critics attack VeChain for, a small club of identifiable nodes who could all agree to act, is the exact reason a thief did not get away with it. That centralization wasn't the bug that day. It was the airbag. Which brings us to December 2nd, 2025, the Hayabusa hard fork. And it did 2 enormous things. The first is that it changed what VET even is. Because for 7 years, the pitch was simple. Hold VET in any wallet, and it quietly drips VTHO to you, forever, for free. That was the identity of this token. Hayabusa killed it, and VeChain wrote the obituary into their own GitHub. There's a deprecation notice on an old proposal that just says flatly, holding VET no longer generates VTHO. Now you have to actually stake it. And it worked. The amount of VTHO being printed fell by about half, which is genuinely rare, a tokenomics change that did exactly what it promised. But the second thing Hayabusa did is the one I keep turning over. It moved VeChain off that permission system, off the 101 vetted corporate nodes, and onto permissionless staking. Their own proposal says it plainly. Any participant meeting the minimum stake of 25 million VET is eligible to become a validator. No identity check, no foundation approval. You post the stake, you take a number. So VeChain removed the airbag, on purpose. And the honest question is, who's holding those seats now? So I went and looked. The 8 largest validators on VeChain today are all centralized exchanges. 5 are VeChainThor, 3 are Binance. Together, roughly a third of everything staked on the network. Keep scrolling and you start finding validators named after crypto YouTubers, and nearly half of the top 35 are anonymous hex addresses with no name attached at all. Now, I want to be fair because the lazy version of this is a hit piece, and that's not what the data says. I pulled almost 1,800 consecutive blocks straight off a VeChain node and counted who signed them. All 101 validators are alive and producing. Every single one. That's rare. Most chains carry dead weight. So it's concentrated by stake, but the work itself is spread out. Both are true at once. And one more honest thing. You'll hear VeChain has 5 million users from its sustainability apps. Those are accounts, not people. The overwhelming majority hold a rounding error of tokens. To their credit, VeChain named that problem themselves and shipped a proof of personhood fix. But you should know which number you're being handed. So that's the trade they made. They swapped identifiable companies you could hold accountable for anyone who can afford the stake. That is certainly more permissionless. Whether it's more decentralized in the way that word is supposed to mean, I'll let you decide. Okay, so here's what's actually happening right now. And this is the part that made me want to make this video. 4 days ago, July 9th, VeChain announced something called Agent Suite. And if you go to VeChain.org today, the homepage does not lead with supply chains. No handbags, no wine, no Walmart. It says, Introducing Agent Suite, the no-code agent portal on VeChain. I counted the words on that page. Supply chain appears once. Agent Suite appears 23 times. So what is it? 3 pieces. Agent Forge lets you build an AI agent out of your own expertise, without writing a line of code. Agent Market is where somebody else hires that agent. And the third piece, Agent Trust, is the one that actually matters, because that's the blockchain part. Every agent gets an identity on VeChainThor, a work history nobody can quietly edit, a credibility score, and payment held in escrow by a smart contract. And I want to be precise here because a lot of the coverage isn't. Agent Suite is early access. It's a wait list. You cannot go and hire an agent tonight. This is a declaration of intent with real code behind it, not a finished product. And anyone telling you otherwise hasn't read the page. But do you see what they've done? 10 years ago, the question was, this handbag claims to be real. Prove it. Today, the question is, this AI agent claims it did the work, claims it has a track record, claims it's worth hiring. Prove it. It is the exact same problem, same company, same answer. The species just changed. And what makes this more than a slide deck is that the plumbing is already shipping. VeChain runs an official model context protocol server, the standard that lets an AI assistant actually talk to an outside system. And they pushed code to it days ago. You can plug VeChain into Claude tonight for free and have it read the chain for you. Now the honest part, and there always is one. The agent marketplace itself is still roadmap. And Interstellar, the upgrade meant to make every Ethereum developer tool just work on VeChain, has not shipped. It's still in review. So VeChain has bet its entire year on the agent economy, while the two things that would prove that bet are both unfinished. That's not a knock. That's just honestly where the story sits. So what do you make of a chain like this? Here's where I land. VeChain is not the enterprise juggernaut its old marketing implied, and it is absolutely not the ghost town its critics claim. Go look at the chain itself. That boring enterprise contract from 2019 is still, cumulatively, the biggest consumer of block space on VeChain by about a factor of 10. And it wrote data a few hours ago. It never stopped. It's just quiet, small, cheap, unglamorous writes, which, honestly, is exactly what real enterprise adoption looks like. It was never going to look like fireworks. And remember the graveyard this thing survived. IBM and Maersk built TradeLens, all the logos, all the press, and switched it off because not enough people used it. VeChain is still standing, still shipping, Still chasing the same stubborn question, 10 years in. Can you prove a thing is what it says it is? They've removed the airbag that once saved them, and they're driving straight at the AI agent economy. That's a real bet with real risk, and they're unusually public about the risk, which I respect. Judge them on the trust layer, not on transactions per second. So here's what I'd actually go do, and none of it costs a cent. First, don't take my word for the biggest claim in this video. Go to vvote.vchain.org, pull up the Hayabusa vote, and see the result with your own eyes. Second, if you want to know whether VBetter has real humans in it, there's a funding round running right now with dozens of apps competing. Go look and count. And third, if you're even slightly technical, VeChain ships an official MCP server. Plug it into your AI assistant tonight and let it read the blockchain for you. Free. If this was useful, subscribe. This is information in motion, and I'll see you in the next one.